lies the future. Well, I guess we all know that. What I mean to say is, we're heading into Tomorrowland, where everything is possible. If you look overhead, you might catch a glimpse of a monorail. When Disneyland introduced the monorail back in 1959, it was the first daily operating monorail system in the entire Western Hemisphere. Winding below us is the Autopia, where drivers of all ages can get behind the wheel of a car and no license is required. If you've ever wanted to become an astronaut, then you might want to stop at Space Mountain and Star Tours, where they got some newfangled flying spaceships that'll launch you into the deepest reaches of space. And you can ride them if you got the mind and the nerve.
Today is January 1, 2015. What you just saw was us at Disneyland riding on a train, and they were telling us how the future is going to look. And they mentioned three things. They mentioned high-speed rail, the monorail. They mentioned cars. And they mentioned humans flying into space. Now, as for the whole thing with the high-speed rail and the monorail, that's going to happen. However, it's not going to work in conjunction with people driving cars or flying into space. So they also told us that we would have cars without a license. Boy, things sure have changed, because we have gone as far away from that as you could possibly imagine. Everything requires a license now. I cannot believe there was a time where they actually thought that you were going to be in cars in the future without a license. Now, as for the space travel, we supposedly put people into space 50 years ago, and now we don't do hardly anything in space anymore. The space program is pretty much shut down. I was out here in LA when they brought home the Endeavour spaceship. It was its last flight, and they were retiring it and not going to replace it with anything. So they have their little bit of space action going on here and there. The thought of people flying into space is now completely far-fetched, as the people who are running the world want us living in a world where we don't have cars, but our main modes of transportation are either buses, trains, bicycles, or walking. You see, the purpose of showing all this is we are not traveling into the future. We are regressing into a dark age. Now think about it like this. Back in the 1950s and the 1960s, they would talk about the future in 2000, in 2015, in 2030, and those far-off dates almost felt like they were never going to happen. I say that because growing up in the 90s, I remember thinking that 2000 was never going to happen. So the thought of 2015, where we are today, was a far-off, distant dream, and we're here now. And we do not have any of what we were promised. We were promised this kind of stuff. So we're at Disneyland, and we go into this Abraham Lincoln Museum type place that was really about a lot of other things besides Abraham Lincoln, but they had these really neat pictures depicting how things were going to look in the future. And we all know that Disneyland has been around for decades, so that recording you heard in the beginning was probably recorded decades ago. These pictures are probably that old as well. And this is what people had in mind for how things were going to look in the future for us. So it's mainly flying type machines. As you can see here, this thing blasts off into the air. Another flying type machine. And of course we have these wonderful looking worlds where there's people flying around and it just looks beautiful. Another flying machine. Another example of a flying machine and another world that looks great. And then you have visions that look like this, where, you know, back in the 50s, they were thinking, oh, by 2030, it would look like this. And boy, if only it would have ended up looking like this. But we're not even close. We're never going to get to this, especially with the people that are running things right now. One more picture, flying machines, hot air balloons, floating cities. None of this will ever happen in our lifetimes because of Agenda 21 and the policies behind it. So now every movie that comes out today talking about the future no longer talks about this wonderful, beautiful future with flying machines, people flying around, flying cities. No, they don't talk about any of that anymore. The future is now portrayed as this dystopian nightmare where it's going to be massive third world populations scrounging around just hoping to survive, where everything just looks awful and ugly. And this, to me, is the most likely vision of the future. This is the dense megacity, which looks more like a nasty third world nightmare to me, with giant shanty towns where people are stacked up in stack and packs by the millions. Now, the reason for making this video is because right next to Disneyland is this brand new state-of-the-art train station. See, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this technology. They're not spending hundreds of millions of dollars to develop flying machines for humans. No, they want to have us on buses and trains, and all the money they're spending is going toward that infrastructure. So I took more pictures, and this is a very beautiful facility, and as I said, it's state-of-the-art. And I actually went inside, and so here's the video I took inside of this place. This is Grindall 61 inside the massive bus station that is going to change the lives of Anaheim residents. So this is the big train station in Anaheim. Now, I just want to mention that I made an error in the original video. I actually thought this was a bus station, but I have two newspaper articles here, one specifically about this building, and they tell us it's for high-speed rail. This is for the bullet trains. So not only do they spend billions of dollars through this bullet train system, but part of the unrecognized costs have to do with the giant facilities they plan on building so that you can go take these stupid trains. So now, here's what the city of the future is going to look like. We have our massive train station, we'll have our bus facilities, but then this is how they're going to design the residential areas. There will be no more single-family homes. It'll only be stack and pack, dense cities where you are living in apartments. And here's what some of those apartments are going to look like. These apartments and many others I'm going to show you in a video right now are about a mile away from the giant train station. So the future they want to develop is a future where you do not need to have a car anymore, and you live in these big type giant stack and pack buildings. And whenever you want to go anywhere, you either walk over to that big train station or you take a bus over to the train station, and then you go from there on your journey. This is the society they want to build for us. So now, one thing I want to point out in this picture is look at what this place is called. It is called Stadium Lofts. If you have been following my channel, you will recognize the word lofts, because I went to the general plan meeting here in West Covina, and they want to design the city around artists where every person lives within a half-mile of a park, which is impossible without bulldozing many of the houses that are already in existence. And they said that artists like to live in lofts. So this is the design they're going to have for West Covina. They're going to have lofts, because he even said so in the meeting. And these are the lofts that they have over in Anaheim that are about a mile away from the big giant train station.
You want to attract arts, you want to attract culture, but guess what? Our housing is just out of reach to them, or conversely, it's not the right format. It's not the right format. It's not the right format.
Right.
How many artists do you know that live in single-family residences? That's not their style.
Unless they live with their folks.
Unless they're you said lofts.
Lofts.
They want to live work environments.
Now that you have seen what they plan on doing in my city with the high density stack and packs, or the lofts, I'm now going to show you what it looks like in Anaheim about a mile to 2 miles away from the train station, as there are rows and rows of these dense stack and pack loft type apartments. So here's that clip. Now you have seen how it looks on one stretch of road in Anaheim. If the controllers get their way, every stretch of road in Anaheim and in every city of the country is going to look like that. That is why we are seeing code enforcement officers going around on witch hunts looking for violations. They want to write you up for those violations to make you pay fines and to make you pay for the repairs. They also want to make you retrofit the inside of your properties and then make you take out loans to do so. So they're coming at you from multiple angles to force you off your property. Once forced off your property, they will then bulldoze the land and then erect these giant stack and pack lofts or make parks. So all these things tie together. And we are seeing the future in Anaheim with their giant train station as well as their dense apartment buildings. So this article here is from the LA Times. I've shown this in a previous video, and it says it all right here. We need to embrace density in whatever ways we can. This is an agenda. This is a conspiracy. I am not making this up. There are plans to do this nationwide and worldwide. Why are they doing this? They are doing this because of climate change. They say we need to reduce our emissions, and this is one of the ways they do it. They want us out of our car, taking buses, taking trains, and living in smaller pieces of land. This article I have also shown on this channel is from a newspaper called the Press Enterprise, and it explains what I just said. The Golden State's climate change dominated planning policies explicitly seek to force the population into denser housing. They're going to enforce climate change by the implementation of Agenda 21. That is what they mean when they say climate change dominated planning policies. This is Agenda 21, and the purpose of Agenda 21 is to force the population into denser housing. They actually say the word force. This is against your will. That's why the code enforcers are coming around to kick you off your land. It's all done by force. So here's the main article now. It is from the LA Times. It is dated Thursday, December 25, 2014, Christmas. And this building that I've been talking about is called the Anaheim Regional, of course everything's regional now, the Anaheim Regional Transportation Intermodal Center, and the abbreviation is Artic. So this is the paper. It's the front page of the LA Times. This is when they told us about the opening of this facility. Article goes on to the next page. I'm going to read through this very quickly in the interest of time. Construction will begin next month on the first stretch of California's high-speed rail network. It will run from Fresno to Madera. Earlier this month, a sleek, glass-wrapped, $189 million building that officials are promoting as the state's first high-speed rail station opened to the public. It's in Anaheim next to the 57 freeway, very close to both the Honda Center and Angel Stadium. So what did I say in the early part of this video? They are not spending hundreds of millions of dollars to create and invent new technology for travel. They are taking 100-year-old technology and making it a little bit better, and that's what we are supposed to accept for our future. I find that to be unacceptable. We are supposed to be traveling through space by now. The distance between those two parts of California, between the Central Valley and the heart of Orange County, gives you a pretty good sense of how dramatically the state has mismanaged the bullet train project. That's why they're calling it the boondoggle. We're putting the high-speed train where there are no people, relatively speaking, and we're putting the new station where there are no high-speed trains. That's why it's a boondoggle. It's a big waste of money. And as you saw in my pictures, there was no one in there. The only benefit I will give them, though, is that they just opened this place up, so maybe that's why there's no one in there, but I do not foresee this place being crowded in the future. Produced by the architecture firm HOK, which also designed the Honda Center and contributed to the 1998 renovation of Angel Stadium, Artic is as much billboard as building, as much advertisement for the appeal of train travel as actual place for people to board trains. Currently, about 900 passengers board Metrolink and Amtrak trains in Anaheim each day. Within a few years, according to the rosiest projections, Artic will be serving between 5,000 and 10,000 travelers daily, including those using buses and various shuttles. Union Station in downtown Los Angeles serves about 75,000. So let's think about this for a minute. There are millions of cars on the road, millions, and only 75,000 a day supposedly get on the trains at Union Station. That is probably less than 5% of the total people that are traveling throughout the day in Southern California. The train system in Southern California is a total failure. The dominant mode of transportation are the cars, yet they want to get us out of our cars and into the trains. They want us to use a failed model. They even tell us that only 900 take the trains in Orange County. There are some 5 million people that live in Orange County, and they are saying only 900 a day in the Anaheim area are taking trains. This is a failure. Where are they getting these numbers from that 5,000 to 10,000 travelers a day will be using this facility? They're probably making it up, just the way we are exposing that SCAG, that does future population projections for cities, has been caught making up numbers when they are trying to make these dense stack and pack buildings. So here it is right here in the yellow, keywords, key sentence. Once again, another admission, they want us out of our cars. Moving past Southern California's reliance on the automobile. They want us out of our cars. Behavior modification. They want you to be able to walk to the train facility. That's why they want you in these dense stack and packs. There will be no cars in the future if we let them have their way. And this particular symbol can be seen very clearly by drivers stuck in the grinding traffic on both the 57 and the 5 freeways. So they are telling you how negative it is to be in a car. Now, I will admit the traffic down there can be pretty awful, but the solution is to not get us out of our cars. The solution is to invent a better mode of transportation, not take a mode of transportation that is over 100 years old and just making it a little bit better. It is even more dramatic, more of a beacon at night. It is also less than 5 miles from Disneyland. So once again, if you want to go to Disneyland, you can take the trains and the buses. 15 or 20 years from now, the picture may be very different. They're referring to how we travel throughout Southern California. Once again, they are trying to reshape our future, force us out of our cars, and modify our behavior. I don't mind 15 or 20 years from now things being different, but things should be better, not worse. Going back and making the trains better, a 100-year-old technology, is regressing and going back into the past. I do not approve of this. It is worth pausing here to note that when Artic boosters say the station is designed for high-speed rail, they're not really saying much at all, at least in architectural terms. The high-speed trains will likely run on the same tracks Amtrak and Metrolink use now. The bullet train would bring more passengers, of course, and Artic's scale anticipates those bigger crowds. Now, I've taken the trains in this country on Amtrak. The trains in this country that the Amtrak runs on are third world type trains. They go no faster than 30 miles an hour. There are trains in other parts of the world that travel upwards of 200 miles an hour. These trains that we have here are dangerous. The rails are decades old, 70 to 80 years old in some cases, and they have not been remodeled, they have not been modified, they've been kept the same for all these years. That is why we see as many train derailments as we do, not on an everyday basis, but more than we should. That's because the rail system is falling apart, and they are telling us they want to have high-speed rail on these train tracks where the trains normally go only 30 miles an hour. There will be massive derailments if this actually happens and they do not redesign the rail for these trains. Otherwise, there's no real connection between high-speed travel and the station's design. In fact, accommodating bullet train service will require adding features including security screening and perhaps a separate seating area. This is where they are going to lose. The average person is not going to tolerate TSA sexual assault, molestation on a daily basis. For the people that travel a lot, it's bad enough they have to deal with this on a regular basis. People will not put up with this on an everyday basis, and that's why this mode of transportation will never gain steam. It'll never be popular, because you do not need to be TSA sexually assaulted to go into your car and drive down the freeway. So now one more article. I promise I'll do this quickly. It's the LA Times, Saturday, December 27, 2014, and they are talking about a new state-of-the-art bus that they want to purchase that they're testing out around the country. So here's the bus. It's 60 feet long, and supposedly it emits 0 carbon emissions. That's why they are doing this. This is all for climate change. This is all for reducing greenhouse gases. They want you out of your car and in these buses. They do not want you to have the independence to drive anywhere you want. It's an opportunity for there to be a renaissance in public transportation. Why do we need a renaissance in public transportation? For the most part, most people that take public transportation are low income. Just the way they want to design the cities around artists. Artists are low income. They want to make a society of low income people. We should not be having a renaissance in public transportation. We should be having a renaissance in travel. This bus can only go 170 miles before they have to recharge it. That means you will not be able to take the bus across the country unless you are changing buses over and over and over again. This is part of them taking your independence away. So here is the zero emission bus. The LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority has submitted an order for 25 of these BYD 40 electric buses, said Brendan Riley, Vice President of Sales for BYD Motors Inc., but it has not ordered the articulated electric one that we saw in the other picture, which is still being shown around several cities. He said Metro hasn't made up its mind about ordering the 60-foot bus, saying range is a paramount issue when it comes to any electric bus. We need something that goes 250 miles a day. The cost for the electric articulated bus is about $1.2 million. So here you have it. They are spending millions and millions of dollars on infrastructure to update old technology. They do not want to invent new technology. They are not spending the money on the new technology. They're only spending it on the old technology. So really quick, I'm going to sum this all up. They want to build dense cities, and in my city, they said they want to design around artists, but they want to build dense cities, and the way they're going to do it is they're going to take everyone that lives in single-family homes, force them off their property via Agenda 21 code enforcement policies, knock down your houses, build parks, build dense developments. At the same time, they're going to force you out of your car through carbon emissions, and then you'll be taking buses and trains everywhere. The city of Anaheim in California is a model example of this, as we already see the massive high-speed rail train station that has been built that costs over $100 million, and we are seeing rows and rows of dense stack and pack type developments down the city streets. So that's all for now. Grindle61 signing out.